There's a moment from September 2023 that never really left me. I was standing about 50 feet away in a park, watching my 26-year-old wife sitting on a bench with another man, her head on his shoulder, laughing like they'd known each other forever. This is what broke me. They'd only met 4 months earlier. I'd been married to her for over a year, and she had never looked that comfortable with me. Not once. My name is Larry. I'm 64, and this is how I lost over $156,000, my dignity, in 2 years of my life. But let me be clear, she wasn't a scammer. She didn't steal my credit cards. This isn't a story about a crime. This is about what actually happens when a 62-year-old man builds a life around someone who's 26 and realizes too late that love doesn't cancel biology, time, or different futures. I paid for the clothes on her back, her visa, and eventually even the suitcases she used to leave me. If you think your situation is different or that age is just a number, you need to watch this. So let me take you back to where this whole thing started. April 2021. I'd been retired for about 8 months. I was a mechanical engineer, worked for the same company in Minneapolis for 34 years. Good career, nothing fancy, but I'd done well. Saved up about $680,000 in my 401k and IRA accounts. Owned my house outright. 3-bedroom Rambler in Bloomington, worth maybe $425,000. I was getting $4,100 a month from my pension and Social Security combined. Not rich, but comfortable, very comfortable. My wife Linda had passed away 3 years earlier. Cancer, ovarian cancer. It was brutal. Watching her fade like that. We were together 32 years. High school sweethearts, if you can believe that. And after she died, I threw myself into work for those last couple years before retirement. Didn't date. Didn't even think about it really. But then retirement hit, and suddenly I had all this time, all this silence. My daughter Amy lives in Denver with her family. My son Chris is in Seattle. They'd visit for holidays, but that's it. And I'm sitting in this house every day, eating frozen dinners, watching Netflix, and just existing. Not living, just existing. One of my buddies from the Elks Lodge mentioned this international dating app, Filipino Cupid, said he'd been talking to women on there. I just said okay and didn't take his suggestion serious. I mean, come on, international dating? But then one Saturday night, I'm sitting there with a frozen dinner in front of me, watching some show I wasn't even paying attention to, and I downloaded the app. The first few days were discouraging, honestly. I'd get messages, but they were all obviously fake or just generic. Profile photos that looked like Instagram models, women claiming to live in villages I'd never heard of. I was about to delete the whole thing. Then the app showed me this recommended for you section. And there she was. Her name is Angelica. Her profile picture wasn't glamorous or posed. She was at what looked like a birthday party. Simple yellow dress, laughing at something off camera. It felt real, not staged. I clicked on her profile. She was 26, from Talisay City, just outside Cebu. Worked as a customer service rep at a call center. But what got me was her bio section. Most profiles I'd seen were empty or just generic stuff about loving to travel and have fun. Hers was different. She talked about being the eldest of 3, helping take care of her parents and younger brothers. Family being everything to her. Going to church, watching old movies, especially classics from the 80s and 90s. Old movies from the 80s and 90s. That was my era. The movies I grew up with. And she wrote something about how love isn't about grand gestures, but about showing up every day. That hit me hard. That's what Linda and I had. We showed up for each other every single day for 32 years. I spent maybe 20 minutes writing my first message, kept deleting it and starting over. Finally sent something about seeing she loved old movies from the 80s and 90s, asked her favorite. Said I appreciated what she wrote about love, being about showing up every day. I hit send, saw it was delivered, and then nothing. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, I checked the app maybe 15 times, still nothing. Started thinking I was an idiot. Of course she wasn't interested. Day 3, I almost deleted the app. Day 4, I was making dinner when my phone buzzed. message from Angelica. My hands were actually shaking when I opened it. She apologized for the late reply, said she gets buried in messages from guys on the app, and most of them are just saying, "Hey, beautiful," or asking for photos right away. Said she almost missed my message. I wrote back immediately. We talked for about 2 hours that night about movies, life, family. It felt easy, natural, like talking to someone I'd known for years. Over the next 3 months, we talked every day. Video calls, messages, pictures. She was just present, interested in my life, remembered details. If I mentioned a doctor's appointment, she'd follow up. Around this time, I told my daughter Amy about her during one of our weekly calls. Mentioned I'd been talking to someone online, someone from the Philippines. There was this long pause. When I said Angelica was 26, the silence got louder. Amy pointed out that's younger than her. She's 28. Said Angelica could literally be my granddaughter. Asked if Angelica knew how old I was. I remember I got a little defensive. Amy told me to be careful. Said her friend knew someone who got scammed on those sites, lost like $30,000. Made me promise not to send money. That's when things go bad, she said. I promised. And I meant it when I said it. But the thing is, by that point, I was already serious about Angelica. For the first time in 3 years, I felt alive again. Someone wanted to hear about my day. Someone laughed at my jokes. Someone made me feel like I mattered. 4 months in, I told Angelica I wanted to visit her in the Philippines. She explained that in Filipino culture, when a young woman dates a much older foreigner, people make assumptions that she's after money, that she's the kind of girl who, you know, she said her family was very traditional, and if I just showed up, they'd judge her harshly. She suggested video calls with her parents first. Let them get to know me before I visited. Over the next few weeks, I had these awkward video calls with her parents. Her father, Romeo, was quiet, watching me carefully. Her mother, Gloria, was friendlier, but I could tell she was sizing me up. Her father asked about my retirement, my intentions. Angelica translated back and forth. He wanted to know if I was serious about his daughter. I told him I was, absolutely. It was a long exchange in Tagalog between father and daughter. Through Angelica translating, he said I seemed like a good man, but worried about the age gap. When he's gone someday, she'll still be young and I'll be, well, old, maybe even gone. I understood his concern, but I didn't want to think about that. 2 months after that, we're like at the 6-month mark now. We were already talking about marriage. I'd never been so sure about anything. But before I could actually visit the Philippines, something happened that changed everything. Angelica's brother Joshua got in a motorcycle accident. Broken collarbone, road rash, hospitalized. She called in tears, not asking for help, just scared. Her baby brother was hurt. The hospital bill was climbing to 42,000 pesos, almost $800. Her parents were trying to figure out payment. Her father was talking about selling his jeepney. I didn't think. Told her I'd cover it. Sent $850 for the bill, plus recovery costs, physical therapy, medications, whatever he needed. She sent me a photo later, Joshua in his hospital bed, giving a weak thumbs up. Her mother was there too, and when Angelica showed her what I'd done, her mother started crying. Angelica sent me a voice message from her mother speaking in Tagalog. I couldn't understand the words, but I could hear the emotion, the gratitude, Angelica translated. Said her mother called me an angel. Said God sent me to their family. That moment right there? That's when I fell completely. Not because I was playing white savior or anything, but because I felt needed. I felt like I mattered to people who genuinely needed help. Looking back, maybe that should have been a warning sign. That I was getting my self-worth from being someone's financial rescue. But at the time, it felt like love. I flew to Cebu in November 2021. Business class return ticket, about $4,200. Booked a room at the Shangri-La Mactan Resort for a week, another $2,800. I wanted it to be special. When I landed at the airport and saw her waiting with her family, her parents, her 2 brothers, her aunt, I almost broke down right there. She was more beautiful in person, smaller than I expected, barely came up to my shoulder, but beautiful. Her father shook my hand, firm grip, looked me right in the eye, told me through Angelica translating that I needed to take care of his daughter, that she was precious to them. That week was one of the best weeks of my life. We went to beaches, ate at local restaurants, I met tons of extended family, cousins, uncles, aunts. They threw this party for me, roasted a whole pig, did karaoke. Everyone was so warm and welcoming. Her mother kept piling food on my plate, telling me I was too skinny. Me, at 230 pounds, too skinny. On the fourth night, we were having dinner at a posh restaurant. I'd had a few beers, was feeling brave. I reached across the table and took her hand. Told her I knew it was fast, that people would say we were crazy, but I'd never been more sure about anything. Asked her to marry me. I didn't even have a ring yet. I'd planned to pick one out with her. But I couldn't wait. She cried, actual tears running down her face. Said yes. The tables around us clapped. The waiter brought us free dessert. It was perfect, like something out of a movie. We got married 3 weeks later, December 2021. Civil ceremony in Cebu City. I paid for everything. The venue, dress, reception dinner for about 60 people, photographer and videographer. Total wedding cost came to around $9,300. I didn't care. Would have spent double. My kids didn't come. Amy said she couldn't get time off work. Chris said the same. But I knew the truth. They didn't approve. Thought I was making a mistake. After the wedding, we started the visa process to bring Angelica to the States. The whole thing, immigration lawyer, filing fees, medical exams, documents, cost around $8,700. They told us it would take 12 to 18 months for approval. I flew back to Minneapolis. We'd do long distance until her visa came through. That's when the real expenses started. I started sending Angelica $800 every month. Not because she directly asked for it, but she'd mention things in passing. Her father's jeepney needing new tires, her mother's blood pressure medication being expensive, the roof leaking when it rained. I wanted to help. She was my wife now. Her family was my family, right? Then in March 2022, about 4 months after the wedding, things escalated. Angelica's father collapsed while driving his jeepney. Heart attack. Mild one, thank God, but scary as hell. They took him to Cebu South Medical Center. When she called me, she was barely coherent. Sobbing, hyperventilating. Told me her father was in the hospital. They were saying heart attack. She didn't know what to do. He was stable but needed tests. ECG, blood work, maybe angiogram. Doctor said blockages. They were talking about a stent. I asked what the cost was. She said they were estimating 180,000 to 250,000 pesos, depending on what they found. PhilHealth would cover some, but they'd still need to pay maybe 120,000 pesos up front. That's about $2,300. She said they didn't have it, not even close. I had my laptop open before she even finished talking. Told her I'd send it, asked for the hospital details. She tried to say it was too much, that she couldn't ask for that. But I wasn't negotiating. It was her father's heart. I sent $2,500 to cover everything. I wired the money that afternoon, next day delivery. Over the next 3 days, she sent me updates. Her father did need the stent. The procedure went well. He'd be okay. She sent me this video from the hospital. Her father lying in bed looking tired and old. He was talking to the camera in Tagalog. Angelica translated as he spoke. He thanked me for saving his life. Said he knew God worked through me. That I was part of their family now, and he was proud to call me his son. I'm not ashamed to admit I cried watching that video. My 401k balance at that point, $669,000. Still plenty, I thought. Over the next several months, there were other expenses. Her brother Joshua passed his nursing board exam, but he couldn't afford all the fees and requirements to actually get licensed and start working. Between the PRC license and everything in between, it was about 28,000 pesos, around $530. I sent it. Then in August, a typhoon hit their area. Not catastrophic, but their roof got damaged. Water leaking when it rained. Repair estimate $1,050. I sent it. In October, her aunt, her mother's sister, was diagnosed with diabetes. Needed to start on insulin and regular monitoring. Angelica felt obligated. Asked if I could contribute 20,000 pesos for first months of medication. I sent it. Each time, I sent the money. Sometimes immediately, sometimes after thinking about it for a day or two, but I always sent it. By the time Angelica's visa was approved in February 2023, 14 months after we applied, I'd sent approximately $47,000 to the Philippines. Between the monthly support, the emergencies, the wedding, the visa process, the flights, the hotel stays. But I didn't care. My wife was finally coming to America. We could start our actual life together. Angelica arrived at Minneapolis, St. Paul Airport on March 8th, 2023. I was there with flowers, a big welcome sign, the whole thing. When she walked through those arrival doors, my heart actually stopped. She ran to me, hugged me tight, whispered that she was finally here, finally home. I'd redecorated the house, new curtains, new bedding, bought Filipino groceries from the Asian market, wanted her to feel welcome. She walked through the house, touching everything like it wasn't real. Asked if this was really ours. I told her it was ours. That first month was good, really good. We went to Mall of America, saw Minnehaha Falls, drove up to Duluth to see Lake Superior. She was amazed by everything, the size of the grocery stores, the roads, how clean everything was. But then things started to shift. She was home alone all day while I ran errands or met up with my buddies. She didn't have friends here, didn't have a car, didn't even have a driver's license. She'd watch Filipino shows on her laptop, video call her family for hours. I'd come home and ask how her day was. She'd say fine. I'd ask what she did. She'd say nothing, just stayed home. I tried to get her involved in things. Took her to the Elks Lodge. Everyone was nice, but she was 26 and everyone there was 55 and up. She had nothing in common with them. I suggested she take English classes at the community college. Improve her English, meet people her age. She got defensive, said her English was fine, she didn't need classes, accused me of thinking she was stupid, of thinking she was uneducated because she was Filipina. We'd have these circular arguments that went nowhere. I'd end up apologizing even though I didn't know what I'd done wrong. In May, about 3 months after she arrived, Angelica told me she wanted to find the Filipino community in the Twin Cities. She was lonely, missed speaking Tagalog, eating Filipino food, being around people who understood her culture. I encouraged it, thought it would be good for her, told her to absolutely do it. I wanted her to be happy. She found this Filipino Catholic church in St. Paul, Guadalupe Church, about 25 minutes from our house. The first Sunday she went, I drove her there and waited in the parking lot during Mass. When it ended, she came out smiling, actually smiling, for the first time in weeks. She said it was wonderful, that there was a whole community there. Families, young people. They'd invited her to a potluck the next week. I told her that was great, that I was happy for her. She suggested I come with her the following Sunday. So I did. And look, I'm going to be honest here. I felt completely out of place. Everyone was Filipino. Everyone was speaking Tagalog. People were nice to me, polite, but I could tell they were all wondering what this old white guy was doing there. After Mass, we went to this potluck in the church hall. Maybe 60 people there. Angelica was in her element, laughing, talking, switching between English and Tagalog mid-sentence. And that's when I first saw him. Marco, he was maybe 28, 29, tall for a Filipino guy, maybe 5 feet 10 inches, good looking. He was a nurse at Abbott Northwestern Hospital, been in the US for 4 years. He introduced himself to me, shook my hand, said congratulations on the marriage that Angelica had told him about me. I thanked him. But then I watched him and Angelica talk, and I noticed something. The way they talked was so easy, natural. They'd switch between English and Tagalog mid-sentence. They'd laugh at jokes I didn't understand, cultural references I wasn't part of. I felt like a spectator in my own marriage. On the drive home, Angelica was more animated than I'd seen her in months. I asked if she had fun. She said yes. It felt so good to be around her people. Said Marco was really nice, that he could help her find a job. He knew people at the hospital. I said that was great. And it was great. I wanted her to have friends. I wanted her to be happy. But there was this tightness in my chest that wouldn't go away. Over the next few weeks, Angelica went to that church every Sunday. Then she started going to weekday events, Bible study on Wednesdays, community dinners on Fridays, Filipino Independence Day celebration. She was gone 3, 4 times a week, and Marco was always there. She'd come home and tell me about her day. Marco helped her practice for her CNA exam. Marco and her went to the Filipino grocery store after church. Marco invited her to his cousin's birthday party. I'd smile and say that's great. But inside, I was dying. One night, I could remember waking up at 2 a.m. Angelica wasn't in bed. I got up and found her in the living room, on her phone, smiling at the screen. I asked who she was talking to. She jumped, startled, said she was messaging Marco. He'd sent her a funny video, said it was his break at the hospital. He works night shift. I said it was 2 in the morning. She said it like it was the most normal thing in the world. Then asked if I thought that was inappropriate. I said I don't know, maybe. Her face went cold. Accused me of not wanting her to have friends. Said I wanted her to sit in the house all day waiting for me, being my little Filipina wife who doesn't talk to anyone else. I tried to say that's not what I meant, but she cut me off. Said she was going to bed. She walked past me to the bedroom and closed the door. Not slammed, just closed. That was almost worse. I stood there in the living room alone at 2 a.m., wondering how I'd become the bad guy for being uncomfortable with my wife texting another man in the middle of the night. The next morning, she apologized, said she'd overreacted. I apologized too, said I trusted her, that I was just being insecure. But the truth is, I didn't trust her. Or maybe I didn't trust him. Or maybe I didn't trust that she'd choose me. Because every time I saw them together, every time I heard her laugh with him, I saw something I couldn't give her. Youth, energy, shared culture, a future that actually made sense. I was 63. He was 28. We weren't even in the same generation. At some point, while all these is going on and Marco being in between us, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone. She was in the shower. Her phone was on the kitchen counter. I knew her passcode. She'd never hidden it from me. I opened her messages with Marco. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Good morning messages. How was your shift messages? Thinking about Sunday messages. Larry doesn't understand this stuff messages. Different generation, I guess, messages. Nothing explicitly romantic. No I love yous. No planning to run away together. But the intimacy was there. The emotional connection. There were voice messages too. I played one. Marco speaking in Tagalog. I don't speak Tagalog, but I could hear the warmth in his voice, the familiarity. Then Angelica's response. She was laughing, sounding happy in a way she never sounded with me. I heard the shower turn off, quickly closed the messages, put the phone back exactly where it was, walked to the living room. Things came to a head sometime in September. There was this Filipino community festival at Como Park. Angelica had been talking about it for weeks. Food vendors, performances, cultural stuff. I said I'd go with her. But the morning of the festival, I woke up with a migraine. Bad one. Couldn't even open my eyes without the room spinning. I told her I was sorry, but I didn't think I could make it, but she should still go. She asked if I was sure, said she could stay home and take care of me. I told her no, she'd been looking forward to this. Go, have fun. She hesitated, then kissed my forehead, said okay, feel better, she'd be back by 5. She left around noon. By 3 p.m., my migraine had subsided enough that I could function. Took some Excedrin, drank some water. At 4:30, I decided to drive to Como Park. Surprise her. Maybe we could grab dinner after. The festival was winding down when I got there. I parked and walked through the crowd looking for her. And then I saw them. They were by the lake, sitting on a bench. Her head was on his shoulder. His arm was around her. Not holding her, just there, draped across the back of the bench, but close, too close. They were talking, laughing. She looked so comfortable, so natural. I stood there maybe 50 feet away just watching. They didn't see me. Then Marco said something and Angelica laughed. That real laugh, the one that lights up her whole face, and she playfully shoved his shoulder. He shoved her back gently. And in that moment, I saw the truth. She was falling in love with him. Or maybe she already had. I turned around and walked back to my car, drove home, sat in my driveway for 20 minutes trying to figure out what to do. She came home at 5:15 smiling, carrying a bag of food from the festival. Asked how I was feeling. I said better. She said good. That she brought me some food from the festival. I asked if it was fun. She said yes, so many people. The performances were beautiful. The food was amazing. I asked if Marco was there. Her smile flickered for just a second. She said, yeah, he was there. Lots of people were there. I asked if they hung out. She said, yeah, they walked around, watched some of the shows, then asked why. I wanted to confront her, wanted to tell her I'd seen them. But what had I actually seen? Two friends sitting close? That's not cheating. That's not even technically inappropriate. I said no reason, just asking. But she knew. I could see it in her face. She knew that I knew something. That night we barely spoke. She went to bed early. I stayed up drinking bourbon, replaying that image in my head. Her head on his shoulder, his arm around her, the way she looked at him. The next morning I told her we needed to talk. We sat at the kitchen table, coffee between us. Same table where we'd had breakfast every morning for 6 months. I asked her if she was in love with Marco. Long silence. She started to say something, stopped, started again. Said it was complicated. I said actually it's pretty simple. Yes or no. She started crying. Said she didn't know. That she cared about him a lot. That he got her in ways that he just understood things I didn't. I said because he's Filipino. She said no, because he's her age. Said it louder than she meant to. Explained that she's 26, he's 28. They like the same music. They make the same references. When they talk, she doesn't have to explain every joke or translate every cultural thing. It just flows. I asked, what about us? What about our marriage? She said she tried. That she really did. Thought love would be enough. Thought she could adjust. But she's so lonely here. I go to bed at 9 p.m. and she's wide awake. I want to watch old westerns. She wants to watch things from this decade. I want quiet nights at home. She wants to go out, be around people, do things. I asked what she was saying. She said she thought she'd made a mistake. That we both did. Those words hit harder than I expected. Asked if that's what I was to her. A mistake. She said that's not what she meant, but I cut her off. Asked her to be honest. Did she marry me for the visa? For the money? Her face went hard. Said I wanted honesty? Fine. Yes, the visa mattered. Yes, financial stability mattered. Her family was struggling. Did I know what it's like watching your father work himself into a heart attack? Watching your mother ration her medication? She saw a way to help them, and yes, she took it. But she also cared about me. She did. She wasn't a monster. I asked if she ever actually loved me. She looked away, said she wanted to, thought she could grow to love me the way I loved her. But I'm 63 and she's 26. We're not even in the same life stage, and pretending we are was killing her. We sat there in silence for what felt like hours. We tried counseling. 3 sessions with a marriage therapist in Minneapolis. $175 per session. The therapist was kind but direct. Said the age gap and cultural differences were creating fundamental incompatibilities that would require significant work from both of us. Angelica stopped showing up after the 3rd session. In October 2023, I came home from lunch with one of my buddies to find Angelica packing. Asked what she was doing. She said she was leaving, that this wasn't working. My heart dropped. Asked where she was going. She said Marco had a friend with an apartment in St. Paul, looking for a roommate. She was going to stay there. I asked about Marco. She said he was helping her move her stuff. Of course he was. I tried to get her to talk about it, to work it out. But she stopped packing and turned to me. Her eyes were red, but there was determination there. She apologized, said I was a good man, been generous and kind. But she couldn't be my wife anymore. Couldn't pretend the age gap didn't matter. Couldn't pretend she was happy. I asked if it was because of Marco. She said it was because of her. Because she's 26 years old and felt like she was living the life of a 60-year-old woman. She wanted to go out on weeknights, wanted to go dancing, wanted to stay up past 9 p.m., wanted to be around people who got her jokes without having to explain them. I said I could change. She said I can't change who I am, and she didn't want me to. But she couldn't keep pretending to be someone she wasn't either. Marco arrived like 20 minutes later with his pickup truck. He wouldn't look at me, just helped her carry her stuff out. I stood in the doorway watching my wife drive away with another man. She filed for divorce 2 weeks later, November 2023. Here's where it gets really expensive. Because Angelica hadn't been in the US for 2 years yet, I thought maybe the divorce would be straightforward. We'd been married less than 2 years. She hadn't worked. She hadn't contributed financially. Wrong. Very wrong. Minnesota is an equitable distribution state, and that I-864 form I'd signed when sponsoring her visa, that's a legally binding contract. Her attorney, and yes, she somehow got one, I'm pretty sure Marco helped with that, filed for spousal maintenance, claimed she'd left her job and life in the Philippines based on my promises. She had no income, limited work experience in the US, needed time to get training and become self-sufficient. My attorney Patricia laid it out for me straight. That I-864 affidavit made me financially responsible for Angelica until she becomes a citizen or accumulates 40 quarters of work, or one of us dies, even after divorce. I asked how long that could be. She said potentially years, if Angelica gets any government benefits, food stamps, Medicaid, housing assistance, the government can sue me for reimbursement. My attorney told me I should have consulted an immigration attorney before signing, that most people don't realize what they're agreeing to. The court awarded Angelica temporary spousal maintenance of $1,750 per month for 24 months while she attended CNA training and looked for work. Total, $42,000. Then there was the property settlement. Our house had appreciated about $35,000 during our marriage. Minnesota law said marital assets get divided equitably. She was awarded $17,500 as her share. My attorney fees came to $12,800. Plus I had to pay half of her attorney fees, another $5,400. The divorce was finalized in March 2024. Total cost of the divorce alone, $78,700. But that's not the full picture. When I added everything up, money sent to Philippines, $56,000, spousal support, $42,000, property settlement, $17,500, legal fees, $19,200, visa processing, flights, hotels, $21,800 grand total, approximately $156,600. But wait, there's more. Because I'd taken out a $35,000 home equity loan to cover some expenses when my liquid savings ran low. I'm still paying that off. $340 a month for the next 7 years. And that I-864 obligation? Still binding. If Angelica applies for any government benefits in the next several years, they can come after me for reimbursement. My 401k, that was $680,000 when I met her, now sits at $547,000 after withdrawals and market fluctuations. My comfortable retirement? Still okay, but tighter, much tighter. I found out through the Filipino community Facebook group, yeah, I still lurk there, that Angelica and Marco started officially dating about 3 months after our divorce was finalized. They're still together now. I've seen photos. They went to Boracay together on some trip back to the Philippines. They look happy. They look natural together, like they fit. And you know what? I don't really hate her as much as you may be thinking. I probably should, but I don't. I think she did try loving me and saving our marriage. But the age gap, the cultural differences, the different life stages, it was too much. We wanted fundamentally different things. She wanted to experience her 20s. I wanted to settle into my 60s. She wanted spontaneity and adventure. I wanted routine and peace. She wanted someone who understood her cultural references. I wanted someone who didn't make me feel old. Neither of us was wrong. We just shouldn't have gotten married. My daughter Amy came to visit me last month. We were having dinner, just the two of us. She's been supportive through all this, even though she tried to warn me from the start. She asked me something I've been thinking about ever since. Asked if I ever stopped to really think about what a 26-year-old woman would want with a 62-year-old man. Not in a mean way, but just logically. I sat with that question for a while. Told her I'd convinced myself it was different, that we had a real connection, that age was just a number. She said age isn't just a number though. It's life experience, it's energy levels, it's cultural touchstones, it's where you are in life. I was ready to retire and relax. Angelica was ready to live. She was right. God, she was so right. I told her I think I was just lonely. And Angelica was beautiful and kind and paid attention to me. After my wife died, after feeling invisible for so long, Angelica made me feel alive again, made me feel wanted. Amy squeezed my hand across the table, said she got it, but suggested that next time, if there is a next time, maybe look for someone closer to my own stage of life, someone who wants the same things I want next time. I'm not sure there's going to be a next time, but who knows, maybe someday. So look, if you're watching this because you're in an age gap relationship with someone from Southeast Asia, or you're thinking about it, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. Some of these relationships work. I know guys who are genuinely happy. The age gap doesn't bother them or their wives. They've found a rhythm that works. But I am going to tell you to be realistic. Ask yourself some hard questions. What does a 25-year-old woman actually want with a 60-year-old man? Is it love, security, a visa, financial support for her family? Maybe it's all of those things, but you need to know before going in. Are you prepared for her to want different things than you? Different energy, different social life, different everything. Are you okay with the possibility that she might meet someone her own age and realize that's what she actually wants? Are you financially prepared for the constant family obligations that come with marrying into Filipino culture? Because it's real. It's not a scam. It's just how family works there. And you need to be ready for it. And here's the big one. Are you in love with her? Or are you in love with feeling young again? Because I thought I was in love with Angelica. But looking back, I think I was in love with how she made me feel. Young, wanted, alive. And when she couldn't make me feel that way anymore, when reality set in, and I was still a 63-year-old man with a 26-year-old wife who wanted a 26-year-old life, the whole thing fell apart. I'm 64 now. I'm $156,000 poorer. My retirement is less secure than it was. My kids worry about me. I spent almost 2 years of my life in a marriage that was probably doomed from the start. But I learned something, and maybe that's worth $156,000. Maybe. I learned that you can't buy love, but you can definitely rent it for a while. I learned that loneliness makes smart men make dumb decisions. I learned that age gaps matter more than we want to admit. And I learned that some lessons you can only learn by living through them. So yeah, that's my story. That's how I married a 26-year-old Filipina at 62 and learned the hardest lessons of my life. If this video helped you or scared you straight or made you think twice about your own situation, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, subscribe for more real stories like this, and drop a comment below. Have you been in an age gap relationship? Did it work? Did it fail? What did you learn? Thanks for listening. And remember, it's better to be alone and have your dignity than married and miserable. Trust me on that one.